Hey everybody, this is Eric. I have returned to Dresden to give you guys an update. Hadn't done much with the game. In August we were traveling, and then in September I came down with pneumonia, and then with the kids going back to school and all the usual hubbub this time of year, haven't had much time to play the game. What has happened is the Austrians and coalition forces had tried to really make a strong push on Dresden in the first couple of hours of the battle when they had superiority, numeric superiority, and they didn't make the sort of progress that I was hoping that they would. They did take 3 of the readouts and continue to hold those readouts. So that's readouts number 2, readouts number 3, and readout number 4. And they're getting ready to threaten to take readout number 5. But they got pretty badly bloodied when they were doing their attacks. And so I've kind of pulled them back and let them regroup, bring up reinforcements for a big push. And I'll give you a recap of what's happened over the course of the last 2 hours from one segment of the battlefield to the next. Now, early in the battle, the Russian sort of avant-garde or light brigade had attacked, and they had actually taken redoubt number 1 from the French, but the French counterattacked, and now redoubt number 1 is staffed by one of Napoleon's generals, who's also a artillery leader of special ability. And so we've moved some other artillery up there. So now we have a grand battery there. And that's been particularly effective at disrupting the Russians and keeping them at bay. The Russian reinforcements that came in a little bit later in the battle along here have been keeping their distance from this grand battery. They've taken a little bit of punishment, but by staying further back, they haven't been as badly affected. And the idea would be that they would then be making their push in towards the city this way, and maybe also coupled with what's the remnant of this, making a move on this grand battery when everyone else goes in. So over here towards the center left of the French line, redoubt number 2 had fallen a while ago under lots of pressure from the Prussians, but the Prussians have suffered quite a bit over time. Most of the 2 initial Prussian brigades that attacked got pretty badly mauled in the attack, and lots of their units routed away. I also took Ed's advice and used some of the imperial staff, including Napoleon, to man some of the bastions here in the city of Dresden itself to lob shells onto the approaching enemy. They've been very successful, and I purposely targeted the Prussians more than anybody else. They'd been pretty badly damaged, plus their land rear units are just complete rubbish, and so when they get hit, they tend to fail their morale check, and if they fail the morale check, they tend to fail their rout check. And so the Prussians are actually on level 1 morale. Now they have brought up their reinforcements that had been activated earlier in the day. We're still waiting on a lot of their units to recover, but the Prussians are at least in a position to mount an assault on this side of the city when the rest of their allies go in. Here in the French center, both readouts number 3 and readout number 4 have been captured by the Austrians. The Austrians had pushed in to this area with a section of their one of their divisions. This group over here, they'd gotten pretty badly roughed up, so they've pulled back so that they can regroup, and fresh troops have come in to support the attack. We also, with the Austrians, have set up a battery in this area here to attack and try to soften up the French units that are in that section. Those are probably the weakest French units defending the city. There are lots of provisional units and not of the highest morale value. But the terrain that they're in is pretty good, and hopefully it will go a long way towards saving them. Looking to start the attack there shortly after the artillery has done some more work, maybe disrupting some of the French units, getting them to make a morale check and disorder and rout away. Here on the French right wing, readout number 5 is still operative. It hasn't been captured yet. There's lots of Austrian units moving in, getting ready to pounce on them. Along the French line, we have put Test's division in this area of the suburbs, and we also have some of Latour-Maubourg's light cavalry have come in to support this side as well. We've sort of had some success with the light cavalry of the French over on this side, keeping the Austrians and slowing their advance. But they now have pretty overwhelming forces, and they should be able to take that redoubt without too much difficulty. They'll probably suffer some losses. We'll probably use some of the cavalry to rough them up a little bit. But there's not enough stuff to prevent that from happening. So the idea is that the Austrians and coalition are going to try to soften up the French units that are in the suburbs using their artillery, and then maybe go in for a big attack around 2 p.m., 2:20 or so, and see if they can make some headway. The French don't have too much coming in just yet, a bunch of heavy cavalry that might be able to get in there and cause a little bit of trouble with the coalition forces. But to be honest with you, the terrain around the city itself doesn't lend itself too well to cavalry. So we're going to kind of see how things progress with the French and where to send those heavy cavalry. In the meantime, the French are going to continue to bombard the coalition forces, hopefully keep the Prussians on level 1, and damage them as much as they can, and then start softening up the Austrians, who have rather fragile morales as well, and see if they can't cause some damage there and get some units to disorder or rout away. And that's kind of the game plan for the next couple of hours with the game.